Welcome to the Advance Your Art podcast, where we talk about the journey from artist to entrepreneur and everything in between. You've worked hard to hone your craft. Now take it to the next level with tips, techniques, strategies, and routines used by successful artists to grow their businesses and careers. Now, let's get started and have some fun with your host, Yuri Cataldo.
Ronan, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Oh, I'm very well, Yuri. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course. It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me. So, Ronan, I'd like to ask about how you describe yourself and what you do.
Oh, that's a bit of a tough one, actually. I think we sometimes struggle with a bit of sort of either self-reflection or even self-promotion. I'm just somebody that didn't really know what they wanted to do in the world, so I worked on the principle of trying to figure out what I didn't want to do, and if something didn't work, I would just sort of quit that job. So I never really had a plan or a career or a goal. I just sort of worked opposite and said, okay, I don't like this. Let's try something else.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, let's backtrack a little bit because I know after university you started working for cruise ships. So what made you want to start working on a cruise ship?
Well, I'd had a couple of jobs where I looked around and I said, is this going to be me in 10 years' time? And certainly one of them I said, no, just shoot me. So I quit that job. Had another one where I worked in London, and I saw a lot of people that were traveling. We had a lot of temp contractors, and they were traveling around Europe and coming back. And I thought there's got to be more to life than just working in this office for the next 20, 30 years maybe. So I asked for 3 months unpaid leave, and my boss said, no, I can't give that to you. You're too good an employer. And they cited someone else who was useless, who still worked there, that said, we'd give him 3 months off. So I was being punished for being good at my job. So I quit, and I had so much annual leave that I only worked 2 more days, and then I had enough annual leave to take. Mm-hmm. And I just got a job. I got a job working on cruise ships through a friend of my mum's, and just started this sort of traveling, not trying to find myself, but just saying, let's try and do something that's a bit more fun before I then sort of settle down and maybe do something more permanent. And that's how that started.
Okay, excellent. So out of that, it sounds like you developed your first business, which was an events company type of a business. What made you want to do that?
Well, when I worked on ships, I got a job in the casinos, which was a lot of fun because it was the people that could afford to gamble. I'm not really a pro gambler, but people on holiday having a bit of fun. So it was the nicer side of gambling, you would call that, because there's quite an insidious side to it. People losing money they don't have. Right. So I had all that experience of entertaining people and creating this fun environment. And then I did that in the events business without any money. So people never lost any money. It was just purely for fun. So I created this fun casino business. And it sort of evolved. Again, I had no plan. I'd never worked in business before. I had no idea what I was doing. But I just said, well, let's sort of try this. So I sunk my life savings, having worked on ships for 9 years and saved up, I put it all into this business. And for the first year, I didn't get a single client, and it was really hard work. And then I met someone who showed me what I didn't know. So if you look online, there's a lot of hype and mystery, and they call it 7 secrets and all this sort of BS. A secret really is just something you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know SEO, and this guy showed me, and it turned my business around. And to this day, I still think of him, and I still sort of thank him for being the person that showed me what I didn't know. And the business went from 1 event a year to 300, and it just sort of grew from there just because I said I'd had help from someone else.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. That's great. Were there also, when you were building that, were there books you were reading, or just these, relationships that you were building seemed to help the most?
It was predominantly relationships. I now read a lot of books, far more books than I used to. So I have sort of got into that habit now of education. I really think it's key. No matter how busy you are at work, you've got to carve out that time, whether it's half an hour a day into your routine, an hour if you can manage it, where you are learning more and more information, because Business is changing at a faster rate than ever, and it's impossible to keep up with all of it. Mm-hmm. But if you sort of bury your head in just work, then you're not going to find new ways to do different things and challenge your thinking. You become sort of quite narrow. Mm-hmm. So in answer to your question, I wish I'd read more, but I did at least. As I was going through that, you always sort of realize that your business is evolving and it needs to constantly evolve to even sort of keep up, not even sort of stay ahead. So you do have to constantly innovate and find different ways to do what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So along the way, then, you started looking at masterminds and kind of working with the idea of a mastermind group. Can you tell me more about that and that experience?
Well, it came about from a situation that we probably all face in business at some point, where you're not getting paid your true reward. So I had a client that was booked through a booking agent, and the agent somehow incorrectly emailed me what they were charging the end client, which was 50% more. They had 50% markup on our service just for a couple of emails. And they didn't even get that right. They a couple of things that we asked in the process, they didn't forward on to their end client, and there was a miscommunication from them. We handled that, and we turned that around, luckily enough. We had to pull out quite a few strings, do all this extra work. But it showed to me, I sat there and thought, well, these people have made more money from me for just a couple of emails than me actually delivering the promise and all the event and everything happened there. And I looked and I sat down and I thought, I'm not getting paid my true value, my true worth, which means that I need to do something else to move myself from the bottom of the food chain and to try and figure out if I can, and I think we should all do, how can we provide more value, better value, which gets us more reward for all our expertise and skill set. Because at that stage, I've been in this for 12 years and top of the industry, and yet still not getting what I felt was my just reward. So that was a bit of a pivotal moment for me to say, what else is out there? How can I do something different? And that led me into masterminds, which just then became this obsession. Everyone uses the word passion, and it gets overused a little bit, but to me, sort of masterminds then became this obsession. How good can they be? Why aren't we sharing more resources, ideas? Why aren't we collaborating more instead of trying to compete with just about everybody out there?
Yeah. So could you go in a little bit more about masterminds and why, I guess, why someone should do it specifically, and then how is it difficult to do? I know that simultaneously, right now, only because a few of my friends are involved in that. Tony Robbins is launching this large mastermind type of ecosystem, and so I don't know if it's just because the people that I have been meeting keep on bringing up masterminds more, but it seems like it's becoming more and more prevalent. So how do you approach building a mastermind, and what do you encourage people to do with those?
So in answer to your question, is masterminds easy? Yes, I think everything's easy, but it's also easy not to do. Easy is a word that can go either way. It's originally based on the concept from Napoleon Hill in his book from the late 30s called Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. And the premise is that when two or more people come together, they create this supermind, a mastermind, whereas, the 1 + 1 = 3. So you've got your own ideas, your own experience, your own expertise, your own knowledge, and that's as far as you can go. That's your limitation that you'll bump up against. When you meet with other people, you find different ways to do things, new ideas. You answer questions that you haven't even thought of. You really do get to get that extra perspective. So if you've got 6 people in a mastermind and they've all got 5 years experience in the business, that's 30 years right there of knowledge, expertise, advice that you can tap into and use. And then all of a sudden that becomes a very powerful tool for you to quickly find out things you don't know, answer some of your biggest frustrations, problems. But also the huge part about masterminds is the accountability. Most people start their own business because they're sick of working for the man, or they're sick of being told what to do. And the reality is, you talk to any successful entrepreneur, and it's the discipline of doing the hard stuff, the stuff you don't want to do day in and day out, especially when you're first starting out, it's just you on your own. So to have that accountability to say, look, I'm working on this week. or the next couple of weeks, I'm going to finish this. I'm making that promise, and then coming back to the group and saying, yes, I completed that, or knowing in the back of your head that you're being held accountable to someone else outside of your organization. Otherwise, you as the boss can easily just slip into doing the things that are easy, the things that you enjoy, and not doing the difficult things that actually move the needle.
So if somebody was listening to this podcast and was thinking, okay, great, I like this idea, this sounds fantastic, but I don't think I'm an expert in like one thing or another. I don't even know where to get started on how to find other people that I want to get together with and become accountable with and share ideas. How do you even get started?
Well, a bit of lateral thinking, you'll find and you'll test that sort of false assumption. There are always people around that you admire, that you like, that you work with, that you've previously worked with. They could be your ex-customers, they could be your suppliers, they could be friends, they could be friends of friends. You just have to start sort of putting it out there. And if you've ever seen the sort of Esther Hicks universe and source will provide, it's a bit woo-woo. But a lot of people sort of really believe in that idea that once you start to put yourself out there and start to ask for these things, they come to you. So it's the fixed versus growth mindset. So if you've got even a partially growth mindset, you will start to find those people and they will gravitate towards you because you're actively looking.
Yeah, excellent. So in your own career, do you currently run your own mastermind right now? And is it focused on one particular industry or, area?
I run mastermind groups, but at the moment my key focus is on teaching other people how to run their own.
Okay.
I call it a different ROI, or return on intellect. Like I alluded to earlier, the fact that a lot of subject matter experts reach that stage where they don't need more clients. Some of them don't even advertise. I've worked with people that say, I don't advertise anymore because I already have more than enough clients at that same price point. And that's the point where you slip from expertise to innovation and you say, I don't need more clients at this price point. What else can I offer that is more valuable? And often that is to teach what you already know. A shortcut, boil down some of your best expertise for other people that want to know that want that shortcut, because they don't want to spend the next 10 years trying to learn what you learn. They want to actually, they want that shortcut and say, okay, show me how to do that. And that's why the information technology has exploded. There's so many more courses out there. As you said, masterminds have become more and more prevalent because people do want that expertise and advice, because they understand that to get it themselves and to find the right book or the right information is time consuming because we are overwhelmed with information. So it's almost like a boiled down shortcut to say, okay, let's distract all the noise and let's boil it down into something that is actionable and measurable and simple and a process that I can follow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So also during this time, you have been running a podcast. What made you want to also run your own podcast, and how has that experience been like?
I think a podcast is, and you would know probably even more than me, podcast is a way of just sort of sharing some ideas and also increasing your authority. Mm-hmm. If you can be the best carpenter in the world, for example, but then maybe nobody knows you. If you run your own carpentry podcast, you can get some fresh ideas and you can start to sort of, really explore that obsession, passion, or what have you. But also you get to learn from your guests as well. So it's not a self-promotion. It's another way of learning, and also another way of just connecting with people in your niche, in your environment, and just sort of, I suppose, giving forward and shining the spotlight on other people. And that's what a great podcast is. It's that two-way interaction of the guest and the host, and also you providing value to your audience so that they get some key takeaways.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Excellent. So in your podcast specifically, it's called the Noble Founder Podcast. How do you seek out your interviewees, and what's that conversation like?
I predominantly use LinkedIn to do that. I think LinkedIn is a great tool for connecting with fellow professionals, mm-hmm. and also, quite advanced search techniques. So you can pretty much find any kind of category of people that you want to connect with.